while you guys were touching on the acting part, I know we had tons of feedback about last week's episode of Stand Taken. It must have been emotionally taxing on everyone writing it, directing it, acting it. Can you guys talk a little bit about what it took to get into, if any of you missed it, we found out about Lux and her background and abuse. What was it like playing that, and how did you get into those characters?
Well, I'd say Brittany was actually really, the weight of it was on Brittany. And she shot all of her coverage by herself. She didn't want any of us in the room, which I really respected. I thought was actually a very brave move, because she didn't really have anyone to support her. She was just doing it. And I think the thing is, which I know we're going to talk about later, is that we really are it was very much a family. Like, we were living up in Vancouver. We didn't have the comfort of our own lives, so we really did band together. And at least for me, it's like, she and I, we lived together the first year. I sort of feel like parental towards her. So anytime you sort of see Brittany in pain, it's not that difficult to sort of feel empathetic towards her. And so I think when you're in that moment, it's like, we're actors. You just sit there and I think the most shocking part wasn't shooting, it was reading it. Like, this is where we're taking a story, this is shocking, this is crazy. And then knowing how committed Brittany was going to be to it. She was worked up for it, for a few days before.
I think it's also something to note is when you start talking about child abuse and you start opening the door for that kind of conversation, you do it on a show that reaches a lot of teenagers. What's interesting to me is how many people it's touched in the sort of Facebook community, or the way that we were being able to relate to people who watch the show, because it is so taboo, because it is such a heartbreaking. It's us. Can you guys hear me without it?
Yeah.
I'm a low talker, famously low. But it's one of those things where, the show, it's such a serious subject matter, and I think that Liz and the writers handled it so delicately. As far as being an actor who had to go into that world, my job was easy because like Shiri said, I am a father, so I can only imagine. I know for a fact that if I were at a mall and somebody were to look at my kid's cross-leg or weirdly, I'm already like a lion, it all goes up. So it was very easy, like Shiri said, for us to sort of transfer all that affection and protection and parental sort of, that relationship onto Brittany. So to see her sitting there on the stand became kind of easy to, to go there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think with that episode in particular, that's an episode that we've been essentially building toward for 2 seasons, and I think it was always important when we started the show. Lux, Brittany's such a beautiful girl, and she, there's just so much kind of light about her, which was, the show was originally called Light Years, and that was for her name. Lux means light, and she does have this lightness, but it would be completely false to think that a child who is raised in a foster care system would have no residual damage and just be this, quippy, witty, sarcastic, fun, well-adjusted child. And I think what's really been great this season in particular, I have different feelings about season 1 versus season 2, and a lot of complicated feelings about each of them, but I think one of the really positive things from this season is that Lux got to be a flawed character, and what was great and satisfying about Stand Taken, we've seen her kind of be this liar essentially, and it's not that she's inherently a liar, it's that she's trying to cover something up, and it's what happens when you try to cover something up. You keep getting yourself in deeper and deeper, and I think the lies she's told have always been based on, if they know the real me, they won't love me, or they'll regret adopting me. And I think that this episode in particular was just exposing what she's covering up and what she's so scared of and what she has so much shame around. So it was a really important episode to us, and it was a really important episode to do. And I think I really give credit to the CW for letting us go there, because I really thought it was going to be. I mean, we've had our, we've battled on some things throughout the 2 seasons, not as much as I thought we would, but this I thought was going to hands down be the biggest battle, and it wasn't, so that was kind of a relief, because it felt important, and when I look at the landscape of shows on the CW, I'm like, nobody's going to do an episode like this, like nobody's, and I don't mean, oh, it's so great, I just mean the subject matter in such a real way, like that's not being done on the CW, and I don't think it will be for a long time.